The people who made this movie understood that we as a nation right now are just too fractured to even have a common enemy that we can all agree on. So they left it up to our imagination. Who do you hate? Put him in there. You would think that for a nation like us that's been around a while and been through some it wouldn't be this hard to agree on a mutual bad guy. You couldn't have the enemy be an Arab country, that would be Islamophobic. Can't be an Asian country because that would be racist. Next you'll be blaming China for COVID.
Bill Maher has been openly calling out what he sees as woke Hollywood slowly ruining once loved movies. Lately, it's hard to sit through an entire film without being hit with heavy-handed messaging that feels forced rather than natural. It's not just distracting, it can pull you right out of the story, turning what should be entertainment into something that feels closer to a lecture. Maher's sharp criticism of studios and executives spread quickly online, largely because it came from clear frustration, not outrage for show. If you enjoy breakdowns like this and want to see more, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and check back for future videos.
New rule, someone has to tell me why the same film critics who find every movie somehow lacking in woke credentials are all in on Top Gun Maverick, a 2-hour propaganda ad for defense contractors, militaristic jingoism, and every other movie that comes out, all of which are made by liberals for liberals with ardent liberal intent, fall short. If the movie is about poverty, the director didn't grow up poor enough to understand it. If it's about being gay, it's not gay enough. Asian, not Asian enough. Female, not enough agency. Race, don't even try. Sidelining, whitewashing, colorism, white saviorism. No amount of virtue signaling is ever virtuous enough. But somehow, 96% of film critics love Top Gun.
Maher starts by calling out what he sees as Hollywood's most obvious contradiction. No matter how hard a movie tries to push correct messaging, it never seems to be enough. Even after the lesson is spelled out, the volume is turned up, and every required box is checked, critics still complain. Satisfaction is rare, with Top Gun Maverick standing out as one of the few exceptions. That's where the irony kicks in. Movies packed with heavy-handed themes are often made to win approval from a very vocal audience and earn moral praise, yet that same crowd is nearly impossible to please. One small misstep, a missed cue, or the wrong emphasis can quickly turn praise into backlash. Maher's point is blunt but unsettling. Hollywood keeps chasing approval by catering to constant dissatisfaction, and in doing so, it puts popular appeal, strong storytelling, and the simple joy of watching a movie at risk.
Look, I liked it too. It's fun, it's nostalgic. And Tom Cruise has been such an ageless, reliably entertaining movie star for so long, it sometimes makes me think, Jesus Christ, is there something to Scientology? But if you're a film critic and you've been making your life's mission to root out the insufficiently liberal in cinema, did you not notice that Top Gun is a lot about making warmongering sexy again? The weapons, the endless money shots of engines burning jet fuel, the big the aircraft carriers dancing in the sumptuous, oily haze, all to the manly, macho, masculine sounds of Kenny Loggins.
Maher argues that on paper, Top Gun could easily be labeled anti-liberal. It celebrates combat, leans into bold confidence, and frames victory as defeating the enemy outright. Hardly the values modern Hollywood critics usually praise. By the rules of today's outrage culture, it should have been torn apart, yet people still love it across political lines. Liberals and conservatives alike walked out, calling it a great movie, seemingly unbothered by its so-called problematic elements. That's Maher's core point. When a film is genuinely entertaining, well-crafted, and emotionally engaging, ideology fades into the background. Viewers don't feel talked down to, shamed, or lectured. They're just enjoying themselves. Top Gun works because it respects its audience and focuses on telling a compelling story, not because it checks political boxes. According to Maher, Hollywood is reluctant to learn this lesson. People don't hate good movies, They hate movies that feel like lectures pretending to be entertainment.
You know that if the U.S. military were a country, its fuel usage alone would make it the 47th largest emitter of greenhouse gases in the world. Our military is the world's largest consumer of petroleum. It spews so much smog, you can barely see the highway to the danger zone. Think about that the next time you're watching a flyover, how we're destroying the world to protect it. Top Gun pretends our best fighter is still the F-18, but we've spent $1.5 trillion on the F-35, which has never worked and never will, and yet we still buy it. It's the Yugo of fighter jets.
Maher often gets accused of being deliberately snarky, but his point isn't to tear down Top Gun. Instead, he's highlighting how uneven movie criticism has become. He points out a detail that's usually ignored. Top Gun wasn't some flawless, politically spotless production, and by today's ultra-sensitive standards, it would carry its own list of social issues. His argument isn't about attacking the film, it's about fairness. If movies with progressive messaging are endlessly examined and faulted for not going far enough, then Top Gun should face the same level of scrutiny. Instead, the rules seem to shift depending on the movie. Either admit the standards are arbitrary or apply them evenly. Maher's sarcasm exposes how selective outrage works in Hollywood, where ideology suddenly becomes flexible when a film is popular, profitable, and impossible to dismiss.
Bloated and corrupt than the Pentagon budget. We conflate, you may, we conflate defense with defense contractors. That's why their budget is $800 billion, more than the next 9 countries combined. In 2003, it was $378 billion. Somehow, we took 2 wars off the books, but now need to spend twice as much? And on fighting who? In Top Gun, the enemy is just called the enemy. We don't name them, we never see their faces, we don't hear them talk. Who are they? That's not important.
Maher pushes the argument further by pointing out that Top Gun quietly celebrates massive military budgets and helps shine a positive light on defense contracting. Beneath the fighter jets, patriotism, and cinematic excitement, he suggests there's an unspoken message promoting bigger weapons programs and ever-expanding military spending. To be fair, Maher raises reasonable questions. When the country isn't facing a direct, large-scale emergency, why should defense budgets keep multiplying? At best, today's global situation feels like a long-running Cold War filled with indirect conflicts and tense standoffs. At worst, it involves stepping into foreign situations with unclear goals and high costs. Maher isn't arguing against national defense itself, he's challenging the assumption that spending more automatically makes us safer. His critique encourages viewers to separate entertainment from politics and to think carefully about where public money goes, who benefits from constant readiness, and whether big-budget films subtly rely on fear to reinforce the need for endless military expansion.
We don't know who we don't care. We're awesome. You had me at America, fuck yeah. Whose ass we are kicking is on a need-to-know basis. God bless America and to whom it may concern.
Maher also points out a lesser-known irony. By modern standards, even Top Gun could be labeled woke. The movie never clearly names its enemy. The opposition is deliberately vague, faceless, and anonymous. According to Maher, that choice wasn't accidental. Naming a real adversary risks controversy, backlash, or upsetting the wrong audience, so Hollywood plays it safe. That instinct, he argues, mirrors the mindset of outrage culture itself, a constant fear of crossing invisible lines or offending someone, even if it weakens honesty or clarity. The result is storytelling that carefully avoids reality instead of confronting it directly. Maher isn't saying this choice ruined Top Gun. Rather, he's exposing the double standard. Critics can't praise the film while attacking others for similar caution without acknowledging the inconsistency. Once again, it's selective outrage on full display.
Enemy, it's not about you, it's about us. We have Tom Cruise and you don't. This is a dick measuring contest. It doesn't really matter who owns the other dick as long as ours is longer. It's just so ridiculous. The enemy. It's like having a movie called Godzilla versus None of Your Business. And that's on purpose. The people who made this movie understood that we as a nation right now are just too fractured to even have a common enemy that we can all agree on. So they left it up to our imagination. Who do you hate? Put him in there.
Maher then makes a point that's uncomfortable but hard to ignore. Who America calls its enemy often depends less on facts and more on who holds power. When Democrats are in charge, Russia is framed as a major threat to democracy. When Republicans take control, the narrative can shift, sometimes casting Russia as a complicated potential partner instead of a clear villain. Maher isn't arguing that either side is entirely right or wrong. He's showing how flexible and shaky the idea of an enemy can be. Foreign policy stories are shaped by election seasons, messaging needs, and political convenience. That's why movies like Top Gun avoid naming an opponent altogether. It sidesteps the sharp turns of partisan debate. Maher's point is that these labels are fragile and changeable, and depending on who's in charge, the definition of an adversary can flip overnight. In moments like this, the idea of a fixed, universally agreed upon enemy starts to feel less like reality and more like a political storyline.
For a nation like us that's been around a while and been through some shit together, it wouldn't be this hard to agree on a mutual bad guy. It used to be Russia, and still could be, but then Republicans started showing up in "I'd rather be a Russian than a Democrat" t-shirts and siding with Putin. And liberals, you couldn't have the enemy be an Arab country, that would be Islamophobic. Can't be an Asian country because that would be racist. Next you'll be blaming China for COVID.
That's where the irony really becomes clear. Top Gun includes elements that could easily be labeled woke, yet it was warmly received by the very critics who usually object to those same traits in other films. Maher's point here is sharp. If a movie can be celebrated despite vague enemies, political complexity, and noticeable blind spots, then the reliability and consistency of modern film criticism deserve closer examination. Should so much trust be placed in reviewers whose standards seem to shift depending on the movie or the political moment? Do they really get to decide what's worth watching? Maher suggests their judgments are far from neutral, shaped by bias, trends, and ideological convenience. Maybe it's time for audiences to rely more on their own instincts and experiences instead of letting critics serve as gatekeepers. A film's value shouldn't hinge on selective outrage, but on whether it connects, resonates, and entertains.
Right, not even a pandemic could unite us. COVID couldn't do it. Russia couldn't do it. China couldn't do it. Not even Amber Heard could do it. You know, the old cliche has always been that if Martians attacked, it would be the one thing that brings the whole world together. Now, I don't think it would even bring Americans together. The Martians could the White House like in Independence Day, and half the country would be cheering in the streets. When they said, "Take us to your leader," they're over who that is. Giant robotic tripods could be vaporizing New Jersey, and Republicans would say, "This is what happens in Biden's America." It never happened when Trump was in office. And Democrats would point out how the were disproportionately affecting low-income communities.
It's striking just how divided America feels right now. Even the simplest topics can spark heated arguments, leaving little room for understanding or common ground. We proudly call ourselves the United States of America, yet on a day-to-day level, things often feel anything but united. Political divisions have grown so wide that having a calm conversation across party lines can seem nearly impossible. In some cases, offering even a small compliment or acknowledging a good point can bring criticism or social pressure. That tension says a lot about where the country is, confident in name but struggling to find stability and mutual respect in practice. Because of this rigid way of thinking, cooperation and compromise are slowly fading away. Maher's perspective makes it clear that these divides aren't limited to politics. They run through culture, society, and even how individuals see one another. If the goal is a more united country, the first step is understanding that people with different opinions aren't enemies by default. That kind of respect shouldn't stop at party lines either. In the end, Maher's critique goes far beyond calling out Hollywood's double standards. It shines a light on deeper contradictions and tensions shaping America as a whole, reminding us how far apart we've drifted and how much work it will take to reconnect. Nothing is ever as straightforward as it appears. From the selective outrage over films like Top Gun, to the shifting definitions of enemies in foreign policy, to the deepening rigidity in society. Maher's sharp wit and keen observations encourage us to question authority, think critically, and spot bias wherever it shows up. To move toward justice, fairness, and unity, we can't let ideological gatekeeping or selective outrage dictate our perspectives. That wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it and want to see more, please hit like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.